All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Charles Michael. I'm one of the co-founders here at InsurGrid. We are here with Brian Bergstrom from the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. We're really excited for him to be jumping on. Just to give some context behind this meeting, in our InsurGrid Facebook group, there was someone who posted about using InsurGrid with internet leads. I think it's a really interesting conversation just because there's a lot of agents that are collecting internet leads through advertising, through paying for these leads, through social media. In fact, the internet is probably the next frontier for insurance agents to drive business because it's no longer them being limited to their territory, which is their neighborhood. It's now allowing them the ability to have no territory. Assuming they have licenses in those states, obviously. Brian, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, give us an understanding of who you are, the type of agency you run.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. Thanks, man. So my name is Brian Bergstrom. I am a farmer's agent out of Minneapolis, St. Paul area. I'm relatively new. So, my approach, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert in anything. I careered about a year ago for farmers. I've been in sales, hospitality, etc. for most of my career. Got out of the military in '98 and went to school and worked as a chef for a lot of years, but got out of that industry and got into the automotive business. So I dealt with sales and management for a Chrysler Ram Jeep dealer. And that's where I really got connected with the potential of internet leads. I'm kind of amazed, the auto industry is seriously advanced in how they manage their customers. They manage their lead processes. I had amazing CRMs and amazing tools. And I had a little department of 4 guys managing internet leads for a major dealer here out of the Twin Cities. And I was handling 400 to 500 inbound internet leads per month. And my other 3 were doing the same. So, our internet department, 4 guys, we were handling 1,500 to 2,000 leads in a given month.
Yeah. Where were they coming from?
We were getting them from all over. That dealership was spending $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month on leads.
On advertising?
Yeah, on advertising and leads and all of the things that they do.
Yeah.
And I was amazed that, we had all these systems, and it was much different from insurance, but we had all these systems to manage that type of lead volume. Once I transitioned out of that, and that's a whole different story, but I got into insurance because I wanted a more respectful professional environment. And I think we've found that in what we're doing. But suddenly I lost that amount of investment from the dealership. When you have $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of marketing money and you become your own agent, now suddenly you're like, what the hell? How do I manage this? How do I generate? And we all know the basics, but again, getting back to what I was saying, I'm relatively new. So I approach this from a newer agent looking to try and drive business. How am I going to do that? We all have our natural market, and that's amazing. But that, as we learn very quickly, that runs out. And suddenly now you're left with, how do I drive business? And one of the things that most all of us do, and probably all of us don't like doing it, but we're buying leads. And I found myself in that same position. So now I'm spending, who knows, $3 to $15, $20 in some cases for these leads. And how are we managing them so that it's not just money down the toilet, right?
Where are you buying your leads from?
I've tried a number of different things. Currently, So Farmers has something called the Lead Expansion Program that they're running right now. I don't know exactly who our attendees are all associated with, but we use All Web Leads, EverQuote, and Quote Wizard are 3 of the preferred lenders through, or lead source generators through Farmers. But I've used an organization called Higher Power Marketing out of Texas. I've used A little bit of all, I mean, it's one of those things where everybody wants to try the next, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? I think the key is that, when you watch the social media groups, we all have to be really cautious with that, right? Because everybody, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So when somebody says,
Yeah.
hey, how about this lead company? How about that lead company? And you get the litany of, oh, they're terrible, they're horrible, blah, blah, blah. I think what it really is, it's just like a good financial plan. You got to diversify. You got to stick with it long term.
Yeah.
If you try a lead company for 2 weeks and, you have a horrible experience, you got to put your butt in the seat for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really think is most important, and I've learned this from our District 80 manager, Kyle Armstrong. He's just a phenomenal gentleman, but I think we've got to get away from using the terminology lead, right? And there's a reason for that. Yes, we're buying a lead. We're paying whatever we are for a person who theoretically is shopping for some type of insurance product. But I think we need to get away from that and really focus on the fact that in order to be competitive, the likelihood, what are the closing ratios, right? They're horrible. But we're not buying a lead. What we're really doing is we're buying data, right? We're buying information about a particular customer. And the likelihood is we're not going to sell them on our first contact. We can get into all the statistics on when does a customer close, right? But it's not in the first 5 contacts. Typically it's 8 to 12 contacts with that customer that they're starting to actually think about something.
Yeah.
But we got to go beyond that, right? We got to go beyond that to the sense that, okay, it may not be the first contact, it may not be the 10th contact, but it also might not be the first week. It might not be the first month. It might be the 3rd time you cycle them through your systems, right? It could be 18 months out when you learn that, hey, they had a citation, they had a major claim, they had a excessive speeding ticket, whatever, that just dropped off. If we're using this information that we're paying for as data, not just a one-time lead, now we know that we can come back to them and they may have 5 months with their existing provider that they would be paying a higher rate. But since we took down X dates, we took down citations, we took down home claims, we can be much more competitive and have a much higher rate of return if we're looking at this as data long term rather than a one-time lead.
Yeah. And you could also, with that data, have better personalization and outreach to build a relationship with that person to hopefully then eventually win them over to then write their new policy. And I think that's a fantastic point where leads aren't supposed to be one call closes. They're supposed to be a resource to then build your community of prospective clients that then you work over time. And as you continue to build that community and work them, you'll then have an increased flow of new clients that you're able to close over time. And I think that's a really, really acute observation when it comes to leads, because I think everyone's wanting that quick dose of adrenaline of being able to close that lead right away. And they optimize for a quick close when they need to be optimizing for a relationship, knowing that down the road, that person will eventually come back when they certainly need a new policy or are interested in shopping for a new policy.
Right. When we look at the longevity of any client, I mean, typically, I think the average is 3 to 5 years. But, inevitably, every person that we talk to is going to have a potential bad claims experience. They're going to have a situation where they try to call their agent and they can't get through to them. Something changes in that relationship. And if we're able to maintain touch points throughout the course, and I think what it really comes down to, this might be our next topic, is, are we using good workflows? Do we have a customer management system that brings those people back up to the forefront a month before their X date? Or, how are we I know people and they're amazingly successful at it, but they still use the old 3-ring binder calendar planner.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are seasoned
Yeah.
agents that have, 10,000 policies in force.
Yeah.
I just talked to a gal who said, "Oh, I'm so excited. I just bought my 2022 calendar insets." It's like, wow, how do you do it? But are we using, and this is not an advertisement for any particular system, but are we using a customer management system that when we enter in that homeowner's claim or the citation or whatever the important date is that then bringing it back to the forefront so that we can say, hey, this person, I talked to them 5 months ago and I sent them a birthday card and an anniversary card and they know me. And now it's time for their renewals so I can reach back out effectively.
Yeah.
I think that's, in terms of the leads and getting to the point of our conversation today, if we're not using a effective workflow tool, InsurGrid, with these leads and with this data, when we combine InsurGrid with an effective lead management tool, that's where this really has brought me success. Because I've got workflows, and I don't know, I mean, if the rest of the people in the room here are using workflow tools or not. I've used Sims, Apex, Agency Zoom, and Agency MVP.
Okay.
My personal preference right now, I'm in the process of building out Agency Zoom, and it's been very, very good.
Okay.
It's not the tool for everyone. I mean, if you're super analytical and you love entering data, MVP is awesome too. I mean, we got to look at the leaderboards, right? I mean, it's so easy to hear everybody's opinions, but if you look at the top 50 agents for your particular company in the country, you can ask them who they're using. And I think MVP is one of the big ones. Zoom's right there. But, to get to the topic of today's conversation, how are we using InsurGrid with leads? I have extensive workflows set up. Well, with EverQuote and QuoteWizard and them, you can set up your daily quota, right? So I have between 15 and 20 coming in a day. It's excessive. It all depends on what kind of staffing you have in order to manage these. But I have about 4-ish coming in from each of my vendors daily.
Okay.
Farmers is on a really big push right now to quote more, because statistically more quotes means more bound policies. So, I'm following along with that a little bit, and we're seeing success there.
Okay.
But when that lead hits my system, so let's just pick EverQuote for ease of use. When I have an EverQuote lead that hits my system, proper practice will tell us that, yes, we want to reach out via phone as quickly as possible, because unfortunately, unless you're paying for exclusive leads, that one EverQuote lead is also going to probably 3 other agents with 3 other companies that have the same intention of binding that business that I do.
Yep.
So the hope is that you could reach out within the first few minutes, sooner the better, get on the phone with that customer and start to build that rapport, which would give you a leg up over any of your competitors. But the fact of the matter remains that we can't always do that. So we have workflows and journeys set up in place. The way mine are set up is I have a text and an email that goes out relatively immediately. And here's where I'm using InsurGrid, right? So I actually include the link to InsurGrid in my first email and my first text that are going out within minutes of that lead hitting. And I make mine kind of funny. I've got some of them printed out here, but I try to make them funny because, I can't speak for everyone else, but that person who submitted that lead, whether they know they did or not, is about to get bombarded.
Yep.
And how many people love their phone ringing off the hook, right? So I want to try and be a little bit different. I've got one text message that goes out and says, "Hey, this is Brian with Farmers. Before you auto block me, understand that I may be able to provide you a little bit of a benefit. I've got a secure link that you can click on that will get me all the information I need to give you an informed quote. Follow this link." So I put that right into my initial workflows, and it goes out, like I said, within the first few minutes. I include the InsurGrid link in most all of my communication, my workflows. Because the nice thing is once my workflow gets responded to, or my journey, once it gets responded to, then it shuts those off, so that now I've actually had two-way communication with these folks. And I just got one today here, just one of these that I just printed off. I've not been able to connect with this person. The lead came in this morning and I was doing a number of different things, so I wasn't able to call right away, but I had deck pages show up through InsurGrid this morning and I've not yet spoken to this person. So it's a huge tool because it shows me their intent. It shows me that they have some desire to be a real person. And now I can reach back out, again, with an informed quote. I have been getting a few incompletes here and there, but I still look at it as, again, the number one point for me is this is data, right? So when it comes through incomplete, in most cases, it's got their phone number, it's got their email. So I can see intent. I look at that as just like gold. So I look at those as gold, and those are the people that, I'm immediately making a phone call and sending an email. Again, these journeys are really valuable. I would say though that maybe 10 to 20% of the submissions that I get through InsurGrid link are people that I haven't spoken to. And I think that's the key point for today, is that if you can set that link up into your journeys, into your workflows, so that it's part of, I want it to almost be a part of my signature. I've even considered putting the InsurGrid link in my email signature. So let me tell you about the reason why I thought that it wasn't for me. I had an incorrect expectation when I got jazzed. When I talked with Chase, I was jazzed. I was like, wow, this tool is going to do so much for me. And it does. But my expectation was incorrect. I expected InsurGrid to do the work. And InsurGrid is not there to do the work. InsurGrid is there to help me be more effective with the work I do. So for the first 2-3 weeks, I was thinking I was going to put this link out there and poof, bound policies left and right raining down upon me. And I got frustrated because my expectation was that if I send some, if I blindly use these workflows, and again, I mentioned probably 10 to 20% of people, or 10 to 20% of my InsurGrid successful links are people that are in my journey. So they're following the link without a relationship with me. And I'm grateful for that. That's 10 to 20% of my business that I'm generating a quality comparison without having started a relationship. So the first thing is I had the incorrect expectation early on that InsurGrid was going to generate all this business. And I wanted to sit back and, have this golden goose that was just giving me policies. And that's not what it's for. You know that, you built it. When I changed my perspective and said, the purpose of InsurGrid is not to get me business or bind me policies, it's to help me do more effective work. That was the change. I changed my viewpoint from I'm going to send this to people and they're going to want to jump on board and do what I want them to do. That was incorrect. The vast majority of the success that I've had with InsurGrid has been after a relationship has been established. So I connect with a person, I call a person, I do all the hard work that we all have to do in order to get somebody who's willing to even pick up the phone. And once they've picked up the phone with me and I've talked to them and explained my mission and why am I talking to them and what can I do, then I say, oh, by the way, it's really important to me that I give you a competitive, value-based proposal. And here's what I need you to do in that to get that piece of information to me. I have this secure link that will provide me with information to help me better serve you. Farmers, I don't know how many farmers people we have or how many other companies. Farmers is not based on I don't ever want to say to somebody, I can save you money. That's a tough one, because there are, the Progressives and the Geicos and the online companies that are all about low premiums. I want to be able to say to someone, I can improve your situation. Sometimes I can save money. That'd be great. But I want to be able to look at your declaration pages, identify gaps, see things that maybe don't align with your actual needs. I want to be able to identify those things. Chase and I have talked about, for me, a blind quote is pretty much as good as no quote. So I'm getting the relationship established, and then I'm introducing the link. And that's where the major success has been. I've been going back and forth with a gentleman that has 5 cars, a 1.6 mil reconstruction cost house, and he sent me a screenshot of his Progressive quote. And it was so far off. I've been going back and forth with him for probably the better part of a week now. And just last night, I got him to actually use the InsurGrid link. In his particular case, he came in, I think, from Quote Wizard. So he got all the initial workflows, but he's one of those people that only communicated with me via email. And it was one-liners, here's what I have. What can you do? And he'd, cut and paste a whole screenshot of this random stuff. So he was getting the link in the initial communications from me through my journeys. But like I said, it was a week and a half of going back and forth with him when I finally said, look, I have this link. We've gone back and forth a whole lot. Let me actually look at what you have and determine what, help you determine what you need. And I said to him very directly, I said, we've been going back and forth, but I don't really know yet what you want. So, for me, blind quoting is just an exercise in that. It's, here's my numbers. And if I were a company, if Farmers were a company that I knew that I could beat premiums left and right and still provide as good, if not better, insurance, maybe InsurGrid wouldn't provide the massive value that it does if I'm always just naturally going to beat people. But that's not what I'm about. I'm about trying to improve a person's overall situation. And that's where InsurGrid has been so valuable, because now he was showing me his Progressive screenshots, but he's been with another company. He's not even with Progressive. He was just getting a blind quote from them off their online services. So, what is the customer looking for? We've got the people that say to us all the time, I'm not looking for a quote. I'm happy with what I have. I heard someone say the other day, yeah, no, I understand. You've got a great company. I'm sure you're pretty pleased with them, but nobody goes in shopping for shoes when they're barefoot, because, if I can't see what a customer has, how can I improve? How can I help?
Yeah.
So that's where InsurGrid has been so valuable in these lead journeys is, if they respond in a lead, in a journey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But even more so, it's keeping that link in front of them and then informing them of why it's valuable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that oftentimes I see agents who position certain requests as a benefit to the agent. And I think that in selling any product, service, or whatever that might be, you always need to think about what's in it for them. Why do they need to do certain things that are ultimately going to, benefit me and my goals? And so thinking about the language that you can use as an agent to help them understand the value of going through this link, which ultimately will make it easier. I mean, I can't imagine certain folks downloading 20 plus declaration pages. Like I just don't see those types of deals getting closed as fast as they could. And so using this link as a way to say, hey, this is put together to help you be able to provide everything I need to do the work for you to make recommendations. This way I can have all the information I need to then help you in this process of finding a new insurance policy or getting a new insurance policy for whatever reason, and positioning the InsurGrid link as a benefit to the client, not the agent, not because you need this information because you want to close the deal, but a benefit to the client so that they know why they should go through it, why they should complete it, why they have this link in front of them. And then I think the second point is also getting the link in front of them. There's no silver bullets. We actually talk a lot about that in our business at InsurGrid. There's no silver bullet. And when we think that certain things are a silver bullet, we typically sway away from doing those certain things. And we instead focus on lead bullets, and more lead bullets over time, which I think in your case is sharing the InsurGrid link out, and then also managing these leads. Doing those two things in tandem over time will then give you the value that you're looking for, which is ultimately more people interested, more declaration pages, more closed deals, and more time saved for you to focus on more effective things that are going to push the business forward.
And I think, in conjunction with that, having the link, having the declaration pages, it opens up the conversation of, Mr. Customer, I see that you have A, B, and C on your current policies. Are those valuable to you? What aspects of, why did you choose that? Why did you choose whatever the particular optional coverage is? The educated conversation, my district manager, he talks about being the customer's agent before you're their agent, right? So providing them with the knowledge and the insight and the recommendations, and you might not sell them this term. You might be there to be available for them 6, 12, 18 months later. But if you have the declaration pages in front of you through the InsurGrid link, it was convenient, it was time saving for them, but then you can open up a conversation that's valuable. Why do you have this coverage? I see that you have this. I mean, we're all dealing right now with inflated reconstruction costs, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, lumber is a commodity as valuable as gold right now. So, if you've got somebody that's got a policy that's 5 years old, hey, we use these particular tools to help you build your reconstruction cost. I see that you're at 600,000. The tools that I'm using are showing 850. Yeah. How do you feel about that? What kind of concerns might that bring up for you? For companies that are selling upon value proposition, it's not about I can get you cheaper coverage. It's about I can be an agent that will help you have the right coverage, because who cares what you pay per month if you're fighting $100,000 loss claim? Mm-hmm. And we've all had those customers that came to us from another company because they had a bad claims experience. So can we be proactive by using the InsurGrid link, getting the declaration pages, making an informed proposal to the customer based upon the customer's risk and need, rather than just making a proposal based upon I can get you for $1,000 a month, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't overdo it, but yes, I mean, the answer is yes. If we see statistically that most prospective clients that are looking for information are not purchasing immediately, they're looking, maybe renewals coming up or whatever the situation is. It changes my tactic once I've made contact with them. But yes, I mean, I see InsurGrid as an absolutely valuable tool, because the minute they click that link, that tells me intent, right? And we talked about that. So I will put it in, I would say probably 80% of my journey communication, texts, emails, everything that goes out, I'd say probably 80% of them have reference to the InsurGrid link, if not the link specifically. So yeah, I use it immediately. So my first initial correspondence that goes out to the client, as soon as I get that lead, it's got it both in text and an email promptly. And then it's sprinkled through, like I said, probably 80% of my communication that goes out. The minute that I have contact with the customer, then it turns my workflows off, because I don't want to keep sending them, hey, why aren't you getting back to me? I've got one in front of me here that I loved. This is probably like day 4, something like that. It's an email that goes out. And this particular one says, hi, Dennis. This is an automated email that goes out. Hi, Dennis. Sorry to bug you, but I'm feeling like you're avoiding me. I'm confused by this because in my head, I'm a super cool person. At least that's what the voices tell me. Seriously, though, I know you might feel like you don't want to explore insurance. Who does, right? But the challenge is that 90% of people pay a bunch of money every month and don't even know what their coverages are. I've got a secure link that helps us determine what we can do together. I'd like you to follow this link, et cetera, et cetera. It makes sense to have a professional take a look once in a while to see if anything has changes or is missing. And I got a reply back on this particular customer. He said, no, I'm not trying to avoid you, but I'm trying to get as many quotes as I can. For me, instantly, that was a response where now I can dig in. Great. Who are you checking with? Why are you checking? What do you currently have? What is it that you're looking for? But there was something in there. I've had a lot of people that respond back to me on ones like this. I've got the auto block. Don't auto block me. I've got the one that I tell at one point in one of the texts, it says, hey, if I can't provide you any value, you can tell me to jump in a lake. And I've got people that reply back to me and say, hey, that was kind of funny. You made me laugh. I'll give you a chance.
Yeah. I think humor is a great angle. I think that's awesome. You play into that because they're going to get reached out to by other agents. So how do you stand out? How do you stand out as an agent, as someone that makes that other person feel like they want to work with you versus other people?
Yeah, no, I and the comments are great so far here. I mean, I really encourage people, even if you can gain 10%, right? I mean, what's 10% of 100 leads a month? If you can get 10% of your leads through workflows, by modifying, as Courtney mentions, working on better emails to send out, the humor works great. Trying to be realistic, right? And I try to be unique too, right? Because so many companies, I've seen so many companies, when you send in a inquiry, you get the same 5 emails over the first week. I've even responded to some people and I'm like, hey, I appreciate that you're reaching out, but I recognize that these are auto emails. In fact, your next one is going to be this, because we see so many of those. I just want a real person. I want somebody that's willing to say, hey, I saw that you did this. I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I know you're probably getting a lot of information, but here's something that I can do differently than the other people that are responding to you with these auto-generated emails. I have a link. This is my link. This is why I use it. It can be really helpful.
Hey, Brian, I just want to jump in quickly and just say thank you, man, for your sharing. And I think you at least helped me. I'm pretty sure you helped other people, but helped me to put a better perspective on, the expectation when I bought InsurGrid was, I'm going to send it out to 20 people and I'm going to have 20 deck pages and maybe 18 bounded policies.
Absolutely.
Okay? And then that wasn't the case, but it was better than what I was currently doing.
Right.
But you helped me to remind myself that this continues to be a process where sometimes if you can help them, you got to grab hold of that information, like their accidents.
The data.
Say, hey, look, I can't take care of you now. Hey, I just noticed you just left your other insurance agency 8 months ago. And I don't even know if I wouldn't say this, but I don't even know if we want somebody who just left their agency 8 months ago.
Yep.
But I should at least during this process be grabbing some data so that 18 months from now or 8 months from now, I can follow up with a more purposeful thing. So thank you for that extra insight and perspective.
Yeah, Fred, man, that's awesome. I had one here just recently that I took that exact approach. I actually said to the customer, hey, I'm quoting you now, but I want you to be aware, come December, you've got an excess of 15 miles an hour over the limit speeding ticket that will be falling off. And I see that in February, you've got a homeowner's claim that's going to be falling off. And he wrote back to me at the end of my email to him. I said, hey, now is the perfect time to start with me, because those two things are going to fall off right before your next renewal, which means that if you start with me today at renewal, there's a really great chance that you're going to see improvement in your rates. And he wrote back to me and he said, you know what? Nobody even brought those up. I had forgotten that they existed. I had been frustrated that my rates were so high, but nobody took the time to tell me that I've got positive things that are going to be happening in the background with stuff falling off here in the next 6 months. And I ended up binding that policy because I was just able to give him a little bit more information than anybody else. Everybody else just sent him the quote and here's your rates. And he was getting frustrated. He said, I don't understand why my rates are so high. So those little bits of extra data are super valuable. So yeah, Fred, that's awesome. I appreciate your feedback.
I have one more question. Do you when you send out the email and you have the link, do you just have the link there, or do you call it something else? Like a lot of times in my text or email that I send, they just have a couple of words tied to the link, right? Document
click here
or quick. Yeah. Like, do you call it any? Because a lot of times I'll say, I have an InsurGrid link. They're like, what? But if I say, just a quick document collection link, I'll send to you. Like in your email, what do you say? Do you just have the link there, or do you just say click here? How do you do that? How do you enter into your email?
Yeah,
that's an awesome question.
So there's a couple different ways to look at that. Honestly, what I've done is I've done right from the InsurGrid dashboard. I just hit copy link and I put the actual link in there. I'm about efficiencies, and I think there's some really cool stuff that you could absolutely do with renaming the link. But what I've done is I've used it right off the dashboard as it is written, because it says Bergstrom Insurance Agency in there, and it. I've had to
call it out in the email or text, like you say, like click the link below, or like here's how you can get started for me to do the work for you. Is that kind of the verbiage that you're using to like preface the link?
Yeah, I use a very specific sentence. I have a secure link that will help me to gather the information that I need to make an informed quote. And then I'll say, depending on who it is, because we all have to be chameleons, right? If you got somebody that's super analytical, they're going to want to know the business license number of this random InsurGrid thing. And is it secure? And is it, what on earth is this? I have found that having this is my opinion. I feel InsurGrid name, because when I attach the link to a text message, it pops up the little blue and white bubble underneath your text, and it says InsurGrid.
Yeah.
So I call it out. I say I have a secure link through InsurGrid, and oftentimes I'll say, this is a company that I use that helps me to gather information, etc. Because that way, if I have a link that says, click here for whatever, and then it pulls up that bubble that says InsurGrid below it, I feel like there may be some confusion.
Is that something that I don't think InsurGrid could work on that, where when I send my link, it instead of having InsurGrid, it has my logo?
Yes. Yeah. We're working on that right now. I'll actually re-emphasize that with the engineering team, but essentially we're gonna soon have it where when you share a link, it populates the image and does all that internet stuff, where it will then populate your logo if you have your logo uploaded to your InsurGrid account, and it will then also say like agency InsurGrid link. And so that kind of short little description and then image will then be branded to your agency. And so that's something that they're looking into right now to determine the amount of work that's needed to do that. And then once we determine the amount of work, we'll then prioritize it accordingly. But that is something that we've come across, which I think that there's an interesting balance between making sure that the client knows that this is a link that the agency provides, but then also kind of leaning on InsurGrid just enough to show that this is a technology to help them that's secure, that's very similar to you connecting your bank account to a financial app. And so we're trying to find that balance, but we're working on figuring out what's best there.
We're just like Calendly, you could say, powered by Calendly, well, this is powered by InsurGrid kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Fred, also, thanks for calling out the Learn section. If you have any other suggestions on the Learn section, let me know. We're always trying to improve our agent dashboard to help our agents unlock the value. I think Courtney would appreciate some of those responses too, because she said she's going to work on the email. Courtney also likes the secured link. She's going to start using that. So I think that's great verbiage too. I think consumers need a little bit more of a reinforcement now, especially, this is new technology. They didn't ever connect their insurance account with anything, and now they are. And so there's going to be a change in consumer behavior, like any new technology, and we really believe in that. And so it'll just be a matter of time when everyone just assumes they're connecting their insurance account to anything. So we're kind of changing that habit, both for the agent to use something like this, but then also for the consumer to use something like this. We're just at time. I think that this has been awesome. I think this is great. Thank you, Brian, so much for opening up the kimono a little bit. I think there's one thing to be said about talking high level. I think it's another thing to be talking brass tacks of, this is what I say, here is how I implement it, here's what it looks like, here's how, and really, provide the details of how people can do this today. And I think there's quite a few things that they can pull from to start implementing immediately. One is the expectation. Two is just include the link in everything. You never know what might happen. 3 is leads are not a silver bullet. Nurture them over time. I think leads take 12 touches before they eventually become into a prospective buyer. 4th is incomplete submissions aren't not valuable. They're actually very valuable because they have intent. I've had a lot of agents say, hey, all I get is incomplete. Well, I think that's still pretty useful. You have another way of understanding what a prospective customer is doing that you didn't have before. And then also really trying to separate yourself from other agents by leaning on humor or other ways to grab people's attention, knowing that other people are reaching out to that lead. So I think those are a handful right there. So I think that in itself is worth everything that we talked about. And I'm just so gracious that you joined us, Brian, and I really appreciate your support and your patience. I didn't know that you're a customer that was having trouble, and you turned it around, and you really believed in us. And I think the more people that can believe in us, the more we can build a product that really helps agents save time, and we can then execute on our mission to make the buying and selling of insurance simple and transparent for everyone. So thank you very much, and thank you for everyone that has attended. I think that I'm more than happy to do more of these.
Absolutely, and if I'm always willing to assist anyone I can. For me, the big piece is, try to stop calling it a lead, call it data, and use that data for something. Put that link in everywhere that you can, because who knows, it might be 12 months down the road when that recycles back into your workflows where, oh, hey, I remember seeing that link before. Maybe I'll do it this time. But yeah, no, I'm more than open to help with anyone that I can. You can friend me on Facebook or any of that stuff. And man, it's been a fun journey, Charles and Chase. Thanks so much for everything you've done.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're doing it for the agents, and we just think we can make a real impact. So thank you, everyone. You guys have a great rest of the day and week, and we will all talk soon and follow up on the Facebook group. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.